cold feeling left. And that was my last time being on the panel. And at the time, I didn't fully understand it. Hey everybody. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day or evening. So, let me ask you a question. For those of you who are believers, have you ever asked God what to do? What he wants you to do? And he answered you? Well, I have. And I have a significant moment that I would like to share with you all. It it's significant because of where I am in my walk and because of having to make the decision really on my own, whether I wanted to or not, trusting in God and then receiving peace. It was hard, but I received peace. So, y'all know that I got to do story time, right? So, I have my notes. I got lots of notes, okay? So I'm going to try to just engage with you, but bear with me because I attempt to write everything out so that I'm not rambling and I don't forget stuff. So, over the past few weeks, a lot of people have been reaching out to me, asking me where I've been and why I stepped away from the panel. Those who don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. It's still a message in here for you. Those who know, you know. So I've seen the messages, I've seen the comments. I really do appreciate the support, the concern. And I do want to say this up front. This is not a drama video. Pray to God nobody clips this up because this is not that type of party. But I recognize the chance I'm taking. This is not a response video. This is not a subliminal message video. This is not me telling anybody else's business. This is none of that. This is really me sharing my testimony, through a story. So, yes, I did step away from the panel. But the truth is that the decision to do that had nothing to do with the panel specifically. I'm sorry, it didn't have anything to do with the drama it didn't have anything to do with anything that people are speculating about online none of that. It actually came from a moment between me and God, period. If you want to call the timing coincidental, if you whatever, I don't care, doesn't matter to me. But this was purely based off of something that happened between me and God. And I'm grateful for the seasons that I had on the panel. I wish everyone well. There is no drama on my end, and I believe that all of them know that. But I do want to share how I got to this decision because I think that there could be something in it to help somebody else. And then, not for nothing, when God is working through my life and I have a story as a result of it, or I guess a testimony as a result of it, I believe that it's my privilege and responsibility to share it. And for whomever's ears it lands on, that it can help or maybe even get you a little closer to God, then I'm here for it. So that's why I'm sharing. Oh, and P.S. I know my son watches my YouTube channel. So I'm mindful of what I put out because he could go onto my channel and hopefully, get some gems of wisdom from his mama. All right. So let's start from the beginning. Okay, so this all didn't start with the panel. So back in October, I believe that God um told me to get my house in order. And that's a whole journey that I'm still in the middle of, which I'll share more on that in greater detail in another video because it's a much bigger story. But in a nutshell, it wasn't just about getting my physical house in order, which that was a part of it, but it was about my life, my rhythms, my priorities, my peace, my time, my focus. And again, I'll delve deeper in another video, but one of the big things that came from this was the need to clear things off of my table in order to even begin to start getting my house in order. For those of you who don't know, I am a stay at home mom. I homeschool my kids. My husband travels all the time for a living. I have kids from like age 5 to almost 13, supporting my husband's business, doing, my own thing, kids who are very involved in different activities. And, there's just all this different stuff. I have two parents who are each in two different senior care facilities out of state. Like there's just a lot that's going on. Starting to really experience some things with my body that was becoming really difficult, achiness, pain, just certain things that I wasn't used to dealing with chronically. So it was like a lot going on. And at that time, I didn't go to God about it. I feel like He came to me. So, a part of getting my house in order was like, all right, let's clear as much off of here as you possibly can. So, what I started doing was I started doing exactly that. I started pulling things back. I didn't take on any new commitments. I canceled travel plans. I didn't go on social media. I told myself I wasn't going to go on social media like Facebook, Instagram at all. The only thing was YouTube for the purpose of the panel. I was only allowing myself to watch things that had to do with like learning about Christianity, learning about the Bible, self-help, self-development videos, skill building, health videos. Other than that, I was not on online like that. I pretty much cleared everything off except these two commitments. One was this organization that my family and I are part of, and then the other was the panel. So I kept the panel because I was enjoying it. It was growing, I was getting paid, and we were becoming a crew, which I was kind of yearning for socially. That I don't think I've made any secrets about that. That's one of the things that has been like a goal of mine, if you will, was like developing more of my social life because, again, being at home, homeschooling, being a mom and wife like all the time, out of state from where you live, where you were born and raised, it was just different establishing your whole social circle. So that was feeling a little bit of that. And then, so I thought, and everything else I cleared except those two things, right? You know what? For a little while, I thought that I had things under control. And recently, it started to feel like I had taken two steps forward, but like five steps back. I was feeling very overloaded. I was feeling chronically depleted. Like energy level was in the garbage. I kind of worded it like I was feeling distant from myself. Like I could see the version of myself that I wanted to be, but I was over here. And again, this is like a culmination of clearly everything, right? And then finally I felt like my body was almost saying, I can't move till something changes. Like, I don't know what you want to do. Some of y'all know that I do like my dose of stretch videos. some of my video that's why I didn't make any videos, because some of the videos when I would try to stretch, it was like it was bad. It was bad. It was like I was all stiff and tight and achy and knotted up, and it was bad, right? What that caused me to do though was that caused me now to go to God. So before this stuff was happening, and I feel like he came to me, and now I had to go to him. Like, I need you to help me, because I felt like that skill that I had developed of being able to manage everything and carry things, and I felt like that was what I felt like that was wearing down, that was wearing away, and I was going to get to a point where I was going to implode if something didn't change. Like, this is just what it was feeling like for me. And this is important because the panel was not the root. It was not the root. The panel was the amplifier for me. It didn't necessarily create all of the disorder, but it magnified it. It magnified what was already there. So that's important to note, cuz see, the panel came my way before God drew me to him the way that he's drawn me now. When the panel came to when I was presented with the opportunity to do the panel, I was super excited because, again, I told you the whole social thing. I was watching it, I was into it. I think this was almost 3 years ago. Wow, I think it's almost 3 years ago. But the reality is that, and again, these are my notes. So okay. But the reality is that I brought it into a very busy and not so organized life. And I didn't pray about the opportunity. Again, I was not in the same space spiritually. I just took it. I took the opportunity. I was excited. I wanted to do it. And at first, all was well because I was only doing Mondays, and I wasn't doing every Monday. I was doing Mondays maybe once every 2 3 weeks or so. It was spread out pretty well. So it wasn't until things started to grow that I started to feel some of the impact. So fast forward to later, and what I started to realize was that maybe when I was doing the clearing before, where I cleared everything off of my plate, maybe I was supposed to clear a little bit more. Maybe God had been preparing me for like a full reset, and I thought that I had removed enough, because I didn't want to remove the panel, because I already told y'all why. If I really were to look back at November, December, I probably could point out a bunch of other signs. I like to call them breadcrumbs that God had left for me, already showing me that I needed to go in this direction. So, like I said, this drew me to pretty much go to him. So one night I sat in my garage in my car. It wasn't on. It was not on. And I prayed a very simple but direct prayer. I won't give you all of it, but a part of it was, God, please communicate with me clearly. I feel distant from myself. I feel drained and lost, and I don't know where to start. If I'm supposed to change something in my life, make it plain. So that's like the synopsis of what I prayed. I want to say that I probably started to get my answers, cuz I don't remember like the night that I prayed that compared to the night I'm about to tell y'all about, but I'm quite sure that there were just little moments in between where I was getting some signs of things. So one night I went on the panel. What did I just do? One night I went on the panel and I was already feeling off. I don't know why I was feeling off. Like nothing happened in my home, but it was just like it was just off to me, for me, right? I always, before I get on, I always say I have a prayer that I read, and I'm just kind of like pushing through how I'm feeling, so that I'm always like, a part of my prayer is to ask God to give me what I need to represent him well. I don't always do it right, but at least I put the request in. So, nothing dramatic happened that made me leave. That's important. That's important. This was not about one incident. This was not about internet drama. This was not about some argument that pushed me over the edge. I just knew something felt just off for me. So, nonetheless, like I said, I got on the panel. And when I got on, sidebar, a couple people have told me, like, you don't have to tell people why you make your decisions. And I don't. I know I don't. And you don't have to tell people how you hear from God, or, what he told you. And I get it. And I know I don't. But I feel led to. So I just want to make that known, that I know that I don't have to. I'm doing it to share. Anyway, so I got on the panel, and I'm starting to get cold. Like I'm just starting to get chilly, right? Which is not abnormal. I have a space heater. See, got my little space heater. When I get hot, I open up my window. When I get cold, I put on my space heater. And normally that's it. Like, that's all I need. I get on my space heater and I'm good to go. But this night, space heater was not helping. Like, I put it on, but I was still chilly. And then chilly turned into cold. And then cold turned into, like, I'm kind of not noticeably shivering, but I can like feel me shivering, to the point where I think I only spoke like once or twice that night, for a very short amount of time, which is odd, because I you know normally was hosting. So but I couldn't get beyond it, because I felt like when I was speaking, I felt, I don't know if anybody else heard it, but I felt like my voice was shaky, almost like it sounded like I was crying, but I wasn't crying. I was cold, but I didn't know why I was cold. So my daughter made me some tea. Like, I drink this big old cup of tea. I had the heat on and I could not shake it, which had me start to go into my head, like, what's going on? Now, at first, I'm like, is something wrong with me health wise? Like, I don't really know. I just know that I'm cold. I can't get warm. And now, like, I'm kind of like mentally not here. So I ended up getting off early, and because I knew something wasn't right. And what was interesting was that I got off, I went downstairs, went on my couch and got under like this really warm blanket. And my younger daughter came and sat next to me and asked me to read her this book. And right when I was going to be like, like, no, because I'm cold, like, I want to get warm, I wasn't, like, everything subsided. Everything had just kind of, I was cozy. I was warm. I was able to sit down and read with my kids. We prayed, we settled down, like, that cold feeling left. And that was my last time being on the the panel. And at the time, I didn't fully understand it, but later I came to believe that for me, it was part of how God was getting my attention. I believe. I believe that it's not everybody else's story, but I believe that in my situation, God was pretty much saying like I already told you what this is. I've already communicated with you what you need to be doing, or what I've already communicated with you what to do. Let's say that. So the next morning, I was still trying to figure out and understand what happened. And what I had also realized was that God had not been speaking to me in one dramatic moment. Like I said, He had been giving me what I call breadcrumbs. So these are like little moments, little convictions, little confirmations here and there that He was giving me. And when I stopped and I asked myself what I was really looking for, like, Carrie, what do you think is the cause of all of what you're feeling? What do you think will solve this? Cuz even after you remove things or switch things, or like, what are you aiming for? What's the goal here? And I sat and I thought, and one thing would come to mind, but then it would go deeper, and then it go deeper, and then it would go deeper. And when I got to the bottom line, it was I want to be at peace with how I spend my God given moments. I want to be at peace with how I spend my God given time. And it was like, well, what does at peace mean? And at peace meant I want it to feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose with my God given time. And what I was realizing was that I was not at peace with how I was spending it. And that was the aha moment. And I again don't want this to come across like this is just it wasn't just about the panel in and of itself. It wasn't about that. It was for me that in this season it had taken up a lot of time, energy, mental space, and it was no longer aligned with where I believe God was directing me. And I should also add that there were other things as well. Not as much, because I still had not put a lot back on my plate from what I had taken off, but there were some other things that I needed to clear as well. The panel presented itself to be the biggest thing because of the amount of time, and I'm going to tell you how. So, one of the biggest revelations I got was that the actual panel was not the only, like, being on the panel wasn't the only thing that was taking the time, the energy, the mental capacity, if you will. It wasn't just the physical panel, it was almost like it had tentacles. And again, this is not a complaint about it, it's just acknowledging all of what it was for me. Now, somebody else might be like, "Girl, please, I look, it was none of that for me," or this is my story, my walk, my, like, take it for what it's worth. So there were tentacles, right? So you have your prep time. There was a lot of rushing on my part. There was a lot of rushing, like the nights that I had the panel. Is like, all right, I gotta hurry up and get dinner done and get the kids in bed and da da da. 3 nights a week. That was a lot, especially since on other nights I was still on, doing other things. So it was, and I'm working on being on time, okay? So even being on time, that was a thing, and it's already a thing that I work on in my regular life. I just haven't mastered it, okay? So that was added. The thinking about it before, decompressing after. Some nights, whew, Some nights you get off and you're like, oh, all right, okay. I need to go watch a movie or something, which would keep me up even later. Now this was a big one. The way that it affected what time I went to sleep. Which again, yeah, y'all, I'm naming this stuff because a lot of this I didn't have it tight beforehand. Like going to bed at a decent hour has been a thing for me for years. For years. So once I started doing the panel, oh man, it just it turned into a whole nother other. I mean, going to bed at 5 and 6 in the morning became like a norm for me. Because like I said, I'd get off and I couldn't go to sleep. I get off, then I go and I finish watching something. Cause again, now this is the mom in me. This is the reason that I was already having difficulties with going to bed at a decent hour before I even started doing the panel was because once I got my kids situated, I would always say like, "Okay, now it's my time." And regardless of how early or late it was like, "You can't go to bed without having your time." It's not it I know, it's not the best, but that's how I felt. So obviously, if your sleep time is jacked up, guess what else gets jacked up? Your waking up time. Okay. Now, at one point in time, I was doing really good. I don't know how I was doing it. I don't know. Not really sure. There was like a small pocket in time where I was doing pretty good with going to sleep, getting up. I think the panel was happening at that time. Was it not? I don't remember. I don't remember, but I was like getting up in the morning, spending time with God, going on a walk, working out. It was just rolling for a hot second and then it stopped. I don't even remember what happened, but it just stopped. I said it like I wasn't there. But so waking up late throws me off because I like to work out early before my kids start getting up. And so if I'm getting up late, which I let them kind of sleep in late since I homeschool them. So they don't have to get up at like 7, so they can sleep in a little later. But if I'm sleeping late, then we're getting up around the same time. So now I'm like kind of choosing between doing my stuff and pushing their homeschool time back, which becomes another thing because now we're getting into one, their extracurricular activities. That's when their friends are getting out of school, it's later in the day. Like it's more optimal to be dealing with them with learning earlier on. And it just kind of throws the flow off. Then by the time you're thinking of dinner and all of that stuff, it's getting later and you still have the panel 3 nights a week. So you're it just becomes a whole nother other thing. The rhythm, there was just the family rhythm, it was just kind of like all over the place. Like I said, I was already trying to establish it and make it better and better and better, but slowly I just felt myself kind of losing grip of it. And I believe that as I was reading more in scripture regarding my role, especially when you get into like Proverbs 31 and all these attributes. Now, granted, Proverbs 31 kind of makes it seem like she stays up late and gets up early. She rises also while it is still night and gives food to her household. Her lamp does not go out at night. I mean, Proverbs 31 is kind of making it seem like I'm not supposed to get any sleep. I don't think that's what it means. I'm hoping not. I am guessing that it more so just means that she's taking care of everything. In my notes, it says, in order to have the food prepared for the family each day, she had to rise before dawn to begin the work which she would do gladly. Okay. And then the lamp night, let's see, 3118. Her lamp does not go out. Okay, so lamp is to be understood literally. She planted the vineyard during the day and wove late at night. She rose early before dawn to prepare the food, thus keeping a before sunrise to after dark schedule to care for her household, which was the foremost priority of her life. Yeah, but you know what? And I'll take this. I will take this. I was kind of like laughing a little bit, but now that I'm reading it more, I'll take this because it's one thing to be staying up late for your family and getting up early. It's another thing when you're doing it for something else. And it's not to say that I shouldn't be able to do things for myself because the panel was more so for me. But the more that the more that God draws me in, the more that I'm desiring to fulfill my role as a wife and a mom better and more effectively and efficiently, because our kids are going to be our kids for forever, or while we're here, but you only get that small window of time once. And maybe it's also heavier on me because I homeschool. I realize how much is on us and me to really pour into them. I just started really just wanting to do better. So there were all the tentacles, right? And once I really looked at that, I realized the issue wasn't just the visible commitment, it was the whole orbit around it. And that was huge for me because, again, the panel was not the root. It was just amplifying what was already fragile, already overloaded, already disordered. Now, okay, keep in mind that was the last time I was on the panel, but I had not officially made the decision to not go back on. It's just that was the last one that I was on, which was, I believe, a Friday. So all of what I'm telling you now is happening in between. So every day I open up my Bible app and I read the verse of the day, and then usually I'll delve in deeper into the verse, right? So as I was still praying through this, the scripture that I got, I think I don't know if it was Saturday or that Sunday, but it was Hebrews 12, 1 through, I think it was 1 through 2, but then I ended up reading 3 as well. So let me go to Hebrews. It's so funny. It's like I've been on the panel for like hours, and I'm at the I mean, I know it's just me, so it's different. I'm like all nervous about my time, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Let me see. 12. 12. Okay. So Hebrews 12 verses 1 and 2. And then, like I said, I went to 3. So it says, therefore, since we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us also lay aside every encumbrance and the sin which so easily entangles us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. And then verse 3 says, for consider him who has endured such hostility by sinners against himself, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. And I won't spend, maybe I'll go deeper with how I went into what this meant in another video, because that can take me down a whole nother lane. But This scripture helped, these scriptures was starting to help me with courage and helping me to not allow what I thought people might think, what I might think, what the potential result of making this decision could be, prevent me from making this decision, because it's at this point I think it was kind of clear to me that I can't do this anymore. Let me just I'm gonna just read a little bit of the study notes. I can't. I'm sorry. So, therefore, this is a very crucial transition word offering an emphatic conclusion to the section which began in 10:19. Witnesses. Okay, witnesses, because it since we have so great a cloud of witnesses, the deceased people of chapter 11 give witness to the value and blessing of living by faith. Motivation for running the race is not in the possibility of receiving praise from observing heavenly saints. Rather, the runner is inspired by the godly examples those saints set during their lives. The great crowd is not comprised of spectators, but rather is comprised of ones whose past life of faith encourages others to live that way. Let us also lay aside every encumbrance. So let us, the reference is to those Hebrews who had made a profession of Christ but had not gone all the way to full faith. They had not yet begun the race, which starts with salvation. The writer has invited them to accept salvation in Christ and join the race. Every encumbrance. So let us also lay aside every encumbrance. Every encumbrance, different from the sin mentioned next, because it says every encumbrance and the sin which so easily entangles us. So it's different from the sin mentioned next. This refers to the main encumbrance weighing down the Hebrews, which was the Levitical system with its stifling legalism. The athlete would strip away every piece of unnecessary clothing before competing in the race. The outward things emphasized by the Levitical system not only impede, they entangle. Sin, in this context, this focuses first on the particular sin of unbelief, refusing to turn away from the Levitical sacrifices to the perfect sacrifice, Jesus Christ, as well as other sins cherished by the unbeliever. Endurance, because it says, let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Endurance is the steady determination to keep going, regardless of the temptation to slow down or to give up. And race is the athletic metaphor, presents the faith filled life as a demanding, grueling effort. The English word agony is derived from the Greek word used here. And then fixing our eyes on, because it says, okay, race that is set before us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author. They were to look to Jesus as the object of faith and salvation. And then author, the term means originator or preeminent example. And then it says the author and perfecter of faith. Perfecter, the term expresses the idea of carrying through to perfect completion. Perfecter of faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross. So the joy, Jesus persevered so that he might receive the joy of accomplishment of the Father's will and exaltation. Exaltation. I think I'm saying that right. So it's almost like he had to work hard to get the joy. Okay, and then consider him, for consider him who has endured. So Jesus is the supreme example of willingness to suffer in obedience to God. He faced hostility, the same word as opposed in Luke 2:34, and endured even the cruel cross. The same opposition is faced by all who follow him, weary and lose heart. So for consider him who has endured such hostility by sinners against him, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. Believers pressures, exhaustion and persecutions are as nothing compared to Christ's. So for me, this was, like I said, this was a point where I was now trying to, like, I was really trying to figure out if I'm really going to just let this go. Because a part of me was like, well, maybe I can like cut back or maybe, but I kept just getting this. I guess it was like the goal was clear. No, you can't do any of this because like, I need you somewhere else. But it didn't feel good. And so therefore I could feel me kind of being like uncertain, which led to me being kind of not scared, but like nervous. Like, can I do this? Should I make this decision? Again, some of you might be like, why is this so significant? It was for me. It just was. I don't know. It was significant enough to not be an easy decision. It just was. So that's when I realized that one, I mean, look at all of what Jesus went through. Cuz a lot of times when I'm going to make a decision that other people will find out about, a lot of the hesitation for me goes into what I think other people might think. I don't know why, but it's like, oh, what is, like, what is that going to look like? What are people going to think? What are people going to say? Whatever. And this whole thing of like what Jesus endured, and he had hostility by sinners against him, and it was something else. There was shame and all of that. Like, Jesus went through all of this. I'm good. I can handle it. And then for it to say, for consider him who has endured such hostility by sinners against himself, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. So, like I said, the Bible gives me the answer. Don't grow weary and lose heart. Like, come on now. You're on your path. You're on your journey. God is pulling you closer and closer and closer to him. This walk is not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, but I realize that it can be peaceful. So, if it's not easy, but it can be peaceful, that tells me that peace is not the same thing as easy. In fact, think about it. Think about what Jesus had to do for the joy that he was seeking to get from accomplishing the ultimate goal that God has set out for him. Look at what he had to go through to get the joy. So you might have to go through something to get the peace, right? So that was what helped me out. Jesus endured the cross for joy set before him. That didn't mean it was fun. It meant that there was a deeper peace and purpose in obeying the Father's will. That helped me understand that even though this decision felt hard, it could still be right. Just because it's hard does I used to say just to my kids, just because it's hard doesn't mean it's impossible. Just because it's hard doesn't mean it's not right. It is right. It could still be right. Then I found myself reading a scripture in Ecclesiastes that talked about the folly of riches and the emptiness of chasing things that don't satisfy. Now, this mattered to me because I was also wrestling with the fact that this panel came with income. And not that that was the reason that I was doing it, because it didn't start out that way. And, uh, that was like pretty much icing on the cake that was totally appreciated. But it was significant for me because not because we needed it. I mean, it helped, don't get it twisted, but it was like a part of me establishing my own little space, you know? Again, I've been so deep in mommy role and wife role that the entrepreneur role, the like I can use my skills in order to bring in income, just so you know that like you're giving something and getting something. It feels good. Ego wise, it feels good. It's like, okay, all right. I could go get my little salad or my massage and I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to ask anybody for anything. I don't have to like it just was it was building in a spot for me that had not really been, it was scratching an itch, if you will, that hadn't been scratched in a while. So to walk away from that was a thing for me. That was a thing for me. But what I felt from God was I had to note this down. You cannot ask me what to do and then make money the condition for whether you obey. So it was a faith walk. It was like, I'm roll with you, God. I'm roll. I want. And I listen, y'all. I promise you. I'm like, God, you do know. Yeah, you do know I'm making a little something. You know what I'm saying? Like, you do know this, right? You do know that's here, right? And it was kind of like, so walk with me. This is not your season for this anymore. It's nothing against the panel. It's nothing negative against anybody or anything. It's just, daughter, I need you somewhere else. That's it. That's it. I need you somewhere else. Period. That was sobering for me. So here now you add in another factor, and I'm trying to find. So the other thing was I was reading. Hold up, let me see if I can find it. Hold on. Okay. So if you're still here with me, thank you. If you have to pause it and come back later, I understand. If you couldn't make it through the whole thing, I get it too. I understand. I needed something to drink. Sorry. I don't know how to rush through this stuff. I don't know. If you're watching too, I appreciate it because it's helping me to get my views up, like my hour views, the length of view. You get it. Anyway, so the next thing was next place that I got confirmation, because again, I still have not completely made the decision. And I'm going to get to why I haven't completely made the decision. This is something that is just a characteristic that I have, that if anybody who's watching this deals with indecisiveness, this might be for you. Because I think that this is why this process was such a process for me. Because when it comes to significant decisions, I go into all of this analysis. So I was reading, my husband got me The Purpose Driven Life. He was reading it, so he got me a copy of it. So we both were reading it. And one of the things that stood out in The Purpose Driven Life, I forget which day it was, but the idea was do less, stop dabbling, prune away even good things. You hear that? Prune away even good things. Because, like I said, I was enjoying the panel, you know? Do what matters most. Never confuse activity with productivity. Never confuse activity with productivity. And I told y'all in another video that I also learned just because you are capable of something doesn't mean you're available to do something. So, capability does not equal availability, and activity does not equal productivity. All boil down to how you utilize your time. Just saying. Just saying. So that hit me hard because it helped me realize that this wasn't even about whether something was good or bad, which was kind of interesting. It's kind of like it just ran its course. It wasn't good, it wasn't bad. It ran its course. Some things are good for a season, still not yours to keep carrying. And that's what I had to keep reminding myself was, Carrie, you needing to walk away doesn't mean that there's anything negative here. There's nothing negative here. It's okay. Like, this is 100% spirit led. So I realized that for me, the season was changing. It wasn't just that God was showing me what to move away from, He was also showing me what I wanted to move toward. So having more times with my kids that felt full and peaceful. Because, like I said, a lot of times I felt like I was just like rushing them through some of the days of the week. Some things were because of their activities, of course, but some were because of me. Cooking together, being present, I have helping my son. One of my sons takes piano lessons, and his lesson is on the same night as one of the panel nights. And I remember one night I was just rushing. I don't know. And again, it wasn't just because of the panel. It was just bad prep all week for me. It was. And I just feel like I was just rushing him. It was just, it was, I just, it was too much. Going to events without mentally calculating when I had to get back home for later. That's happened to me so many times. Being out and I'm like, I gotta get back home. 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 Getting control of my sleep, and then being able to enjoy my husband when he came home without pressure hanging over my head, because some or pressure hanging over my day. My husband is touring a lot right now. So he comes home when they have little breaks between shows, and I don't always know when that's going to be. And so sometimes he might come home for like a day and a half. Well, I'm going to spend as much time as I can with him. So it's like feeling, just like I don't want anything over my head for these types of moments. And not for nothing, I've been blessed. Like, he created the type of a scenario where I don't have to have anything hanging over my head in that regard, if you get what I'm saying. So that was probably a bigger breadcrumb as I look back than I thought. And again, these are all internal things. Like, nobody put any of this on me but me. This is all my mental pressure that I'm putting on myself. So those things started standing out to me as the life I was actually longing for. And that mattered because then the decision stopped being only about what I was leaving and started being about what God was calling me back to. All right, so now we're getting into one of the biggest parts. And this is what I was talking about. If you are indecisive, if you are the type of person where before you make a decision, you feel like you got to get input from everybody, or not everybody, but input from different people, or you have to like run it by somebody or whatever. This was just a moment that was significant for me because that's the type of person that I am. Like, 9 times out of 10, if I make a decision, I'm definitely going to my husband about it. Obviously, I'm going to pray about it. I might want to get somebody else's input about it depending on what it is. And so this too for me, I think, was why it took me a couple of days to really make a final decision, because originally I was like, I think this is the decision to make, but I'm going to wait and talk to my pastor. I'm going to wait and talk to my husband. I'm going to let them know the breadcrumbs that I've been seeing. I'm going to tell them everything and then see what they think. Nope. Another major part of this testimony is that I realized I could not outsource the decision. This just wasn't a decision for anybody else to make. And, I couldn't make this about what my husband thought, what a friend thought, what a pastor thought, what anybody online thought. There is wisdom in counsel, absolutely. Because I was like, well, wait, hold on. There's scripture that says that you should go to people like the wise, seek wise counsel, or I remember all this. Like I remember there's some scripture that says that. But in this case, I felt like God made it clear. I prayed to him and I felt like he gave me my answer. And I thought that the decision in and of itself was the faith, but I really think that the process and making the decision on my own was really what it was about, because I had to trust the decision. I couldn't be shaky. I couldn't be indecisive. I couldn't look for somebody else to give me. So what do you think? Do you think that I'm on the right track with this one? You feeling what I'm saying? I couldn't do that. I put this was a huge milestone for me because now hear me out. I had never made a decision this significant, one that affected money, visibility, potentially relationships, purely out of prayer, conviction, and obedience to what I believe God was telling me. That was new for me. So it's not that I've never made a milestone decision for myself before. It's I have never, that I can recall, and I would like to think I would probably be able to recall it. I don't recall having ever made a significant decision purely based off of prayer, conviction, and obedience to what I believe God was telling me. And honestly, it was scary. It was scary, but it was also clear. It was also clear. So I called it being scaredly clear. I was scaredly clear. I was scared because I knew it was going to cost me something. But I was clear because I knew what I needed to do. I knew it. I knew it. So I made the decision. Now, I did talk to my husband after the fact. Before I let Anton know, I did talk to my husband to tell him like all of what I had come up with. No, wait. Did I talk to him after? You know what? I think that I spoke with him. I had to ask him. I think I spoke with him and let him know what I was thinking about. Like maybe I talked to him about it when I was still thinking about it and then realized I had to figure it out for myself cuz he wasn't here. So I can't completely remember, and he's, busy too, so it might have been kind of like touch and go. But I feel like I told him, no, I did. I did tell him what I decided. But I don't know if he really knew if I was going to go through with it until I told him I had already let Anton know. feel like I don't know. Because what I loved about his response was, I mean, clearly if he just wanted me to move one way or the other, he would have let me know and I would have followed that. But what I loved about it was that he said, "Look, you fine with me, especially since you I know where you are with your walk, and if you're saying that this was something that you needed to make the decision on your own based off of what God had put on you, I trust that." And I just appreciated that. Really, I I owe all of that to God. Like, it's kind of cool that it is cool that he saw that he believed that. So anyway, that's just an aside. I might be sharing too much of my business, but I thought that that was pretty cool. So I ended up making the decision. I stepped away. I did it in a way that I felt was respectful and clear and prayed over. And it wasn't because I was angry. It wasn't because I was trying to make a statement. It wasn't because of what people online may have been assuming. It wasn't because of what was going on in the internet ecosystem. Had nothing to do with any of that. And Anton received it. He understood. And, I stepped away because I believe God made it clear that this was no longer where He wanted me to spend my time in the season. And that was the truth. So, this is the part that really confirmed it for me. When I stepped away, I felt peace. Nothing, not fake relief, not some euphoric high, just just peace. Just the first noticeable thing was I was able to sleep, and my sleep started changing almost immediately. What went from going to bed at 4 or 5 or 6 in the morning went to, 11, 12, 1 or 2. I'm still working on it. I ain't perfect yet, but that's a significant improvement. Okay? I've had more presence with my kids. They notice it. They it's so cute because I didn't tell. No, I didn't tell them. I didn't tell any. Now I remember. I'm sorry. I didn't tell anybody my final decision because I was like, I want to see if they notice that I'm not going on. What happened to my light? I said I want to see if they notice that this. I guess this is kind of bright on me. Hold on. This is let me. Okay, now we're to blue. Yeah, I do remember because I wanted to see if they noticed that I didn't go on. So for a few days, I didn't say anything. And yep, because my husband came home. I think I then said something to them because I couldn't hold it in. It was like, y'all notice I'm not on the panel? And it was kind of like, you're not, So, and it's interesting because I had to explain my son, who is like entrepreneur, Mr. Entrepreneur, is like, you're not on, why not? Like, what about this and that? So I had to basically explain all of this to him, and they all understood it. They all respect it, and they all get how serious it is for me when I say I believe that this is what God told me to do. So got total support from all of them. More peace in the evening, a better rhythm because quiet is kept. Me being thrown, like, my rhythm started to impact my kids, especially considering this was like a more recently, this has been a heavy season of it just being me here. I'm not always able to get them in bed before I was getting on. So some nights they were going to bed later. Like, it was just kind of spiraling, if you will. So I felt like I was cooking more, cooking earlier. We were getting cleaning done better, playing, building, breathing, being home, being with my husband, myself. Like it just was it was a piece. And it's funny because we went to Home Depot one night. My husband wanted to buy all these big old plants, and the kids wanted to buy their own little plants. So we got these elephant ear plants, which even going to the store that night felt crazy because it was like I didn't have to rush back. So those big elephant ear plants, you're supposed to clean the leaves off. So one morning, I was just downstairs, got up because I went to bed at a decent hour, so I was up before anybody else. And I remember starting to clean the leaves of the plant. We have two big ones. And as I'm cleaning the leaves, I'm like, this is taking too long. I got stuff to do. And then I realized like, you're good. Like, calm down. You're good. You have time. I don't know, just my whole perspective just started to shift. And again, it's not just it at by this point, by the point that I had made the decision and all of that, it was no longer, whoo, this is a relief because I'm not on the panel. It was more so, whoo, now I can really pay attention to how I'm using my time. So even with the plant, it was like, I feel like this is an effective use of my God given time right now. Like, I just felt like it was. So I was able to dial down the anxiety and just be in the moment of cleaning the leaf of the plant. Simple as that. And then I had this moment of you don't have anything to rush for. So, yeah, that was huge. It was like obedience had started restoring rhythm for sure. For sure. Another big part of this season for me was realizing that once I cleared the space, oh, this was a big one. And this one, Enrique reminded me of, now that you've cleared this time, because it did clear up a significant amount of time. Much of it was for sleep, but I had to be careful not to immediately misspend the time. So my knee jerk reaction was like, all right, now that I'm not doing this, I could do. And then it was like, nope, 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 we're not going to do that. I can't just take something off my plate, then rush to fill the same space with something else. Nope, we're not going to do that. So I promised God that I would let that space stay clear and He would help me to know what to do. So, yes, I replaced some of it with sleep. Yes, I replaced some of it with presence, but I also had to resist the urge to immediately plug something into the open space, even the open mental space, because part of the lesson was not just to clear it. Part of the lesson was to clear it and keep it clear long enough to really pray about what belongs there. And that mattered to me a lot because I didn't want to just be free just to become busy again. I wanted to become intentional, and that is a big part of what I'm focusing on even now, being very intentional. That's why even again, the video, I'm gonna stop mentioning how long the video is. Like, I watch videos that are hours long. I gotta stop doing that. But even with this, that's why I take my notes. I have my Bible. Like, I'm I'm being intentional. I don't want to just hit the record button and just start talking. It's with purpose. It's with intention. That matters to me. So what I want people to take from this. Here we go. Here is the conclusion of all of this, right? So if there's anything that I want somebody to take from this, it's that when You really go to God. Like you go to him and you ask him to make something clear, simple. Be prepared for the answer. Um and his answer may not always come in one big dramatic moment. It may come in conviction, it may come in scripture, in peace, in discomfort, in patterns, in little breadcrumbs that keep adding up until you know. And when you know, now listen to me clearly, obedience may still be scary. It may still cost you. It may still confuse other people, but peace can still be there. And that's what I experienced. And there's no confusion. God's not going to make it confusing to you, and it's not going to go against his word. It's going to match up with his word. If you're not sure of what you're receiving, you should be able to find scripture to support it. It's not going to be confusing. So, yes, I stepped away. Yes, I stepped away. And I'm very grateful for the season for what it was. I'm very grateful. I learned a lot. I experienced a lot. I met some really cool people. I wish everybody well. But more than that, I'm grateful that God cared enough to redirect me. This was not just about leaving something. It was about learning how to hear from him, trust him, obey him, and then protect the space that obedience created. And for me, that was a very big deal. So, if you were able to make it through, I really appreciate you. I hope that one, those who've asked, you understand now. I pray that anybody who is in a space where life is just kind of not not making sense, not adding up, or becoming really overwhelming, that you would consider relying on something that's way bigger and way stronger and going to God and asking him, where do you want me to be? Where do you want me to be? Tell me. Make it clear, make it plain, please. And that you will have enough faith and courage and patience to not only hear his answer, but to take heed to it. Simple as that. So, on that note, I am going to close this out. I hope that you all have a wonderful evening or a wonderful day, depending on when you're watching this. And I hope that you go out there and be great, because you are great. So until next time, thank you all for staying on here with me this long. And I'll see you next time. All right. Bye.